going back when I was a kid and transistor radios were out there for the first time, I used to listen to all of these stations at night, be 10, 12, 14 years old. And the thing that I loved about it was not necessarily the music, yeah, that was good, but I liked the announcers and I liked the promos. That's what I would listen for. I wanted to do those so bad. And oddly enough, I was supposed to be an architect. And I just decided, no, I'm not going to do that, and I came here. 3 months after I was here in '72, I was doing the evening show on Saturday in Woodstock, Ontario, which was a country music show, of which I have absolutely no knowledge then and even less today. So it was really a bit of a challenge. And one of the things that I had been told was that classical music fans and country music fans, they know their artists inside and out. They just really get into this stuff. So I would go on the air and say things like, remember this? I don't. But it worked. There was no way of getting around the fact that I didn't have any knowledge, so I made that knowledge work for me. 3 months after that, I'm now doing afternoon drive at that station. 3 months after that, about 6 months after that, I'm working at CKWW in Windsor, doing the evening show, and CKLW came to me and said, we have an opportunity for 6 months where we're going to need a fill-in guy to do overnights. So I would get off the air at one station, get in the car, drive down Willett Avenue, and get back on the radio again for another station, which is pretty much unheard of in this day and age, but it was wide open back in the 70s. From there, I went to Sarnia because I liked the area. I had a lot of friends there, and I worked at station CHOK. It's still there. And it was a totally different format. It was more like an old CFRB type of format. It wasn't that it was talk, but it was beautiful music kind of thing. And I thought, this is, I've done top 40. I want to get balanced out a little bit. So I'm going to work in this format. So I started evenings, and then I'm eventually doing afternoon drive. And the Slate family owned that radio station at the time. They also owned CFRB as well. They wanted me to become a program director for future stations, but I had no sales experience. So I had to go, they offered me a job at CFGM in Toronto, which was country music again. And I was a salesperson, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I would have been a really good salesman if they'd have come out to the car. But I would kind of look at it and go, nah, they're busy. So then I thought, well, I'll try sales in a smaller market at CKSL. And I was equally as bad, and if not worse, because it was just, this is just not for me. There's no passion in this. It's, trying to run after people for checks and stuff like that. It just wasn't me. There are other people that can fit into sales, and they shoehorn into that. It's exactly what they want to do. So I quit sales, and then the program director put me on as a swing announcer, and then a new program director came in from Toronto and put me on middays, which I did for, again, about 3 years. And then I went to CFDR as a swing announcer, and that's really where the portion of my career took a dramatic change. What I always wanted to do, I wanted to have this promo and commercial and that sort of thing was still in the back of my mind. But I needed something to put food on the table while I went after this. So I never wanted a full-time on-air gig in Toronto. I wanted to be the swing guy. That left my days free to go and do commercials and narrations. And after a while, Chum FM hired me, mainly because Ross Davies at the time, he had a situation where he had a really great on-air staff, but they were getting too comfortable. So he said to me, he said, what I want to do is I want to bring you in and subtly let the rest of the on-air staff know that there is a guy on staff who can take your job tomorrow. Bring them to the front of the seat rather than the back of the seat. They weren't engaged enough. That's fine with me. In that, I started doing commercial work. In total, I've probably done about 5,000 national radio and TV spots. Never did on camera. I've done about 2,000 or 3,000 narrations and documentaries. I was the voice of the CTV television network for 9 years. I then went on, and when Food Network signed on, they hired me as their voice, and I was there for 8 years. So, and along the line, I started doing imaging for radio and TV along that, so I've got a whole whack of those clients that I service out of the home studio. So essentially, I ended up with exactly where I wanted to be. My first gig was working, playing country music, and it led me to be a network voice. That's how it works. That's how the progression goes when you get into broadcasting. It's really quite simple, but you got to be prepared to get yourself to a position where you can follow your passion, and if you can get somebody to pick up the nickel while you're doing it, that's golden, okay? That's really what your first job and your second job and your third job might be all about, is that you're going to get to try and do all of these things on somebody else's dime. And that's pretty hard to come by in any other industry. So you can develop these ideas on your own, mold them, and yet somebody else is paying you for your rent, your food, and everything else. So that's pretty much what my career followed. It's been an interesting journey.